Okay, hi everyone. Should just be connecting to my video now. There we are. Hi. I'm not sure if any of you guys have showed up yet. We're just going to wait until you come into the room. And I'm just going to take a little bit of time. So the point of this webinar is it's pretty casual. It's a little bit of a chat. So make sure you get your paper and your pen. Never go anywhere without it. Jot down some notes. And your water. I think I'm out of water. I think I just finished it. That was bad planning. A little bit. Okay. So I've got a few people coming on now. Welcome. I'm just going to wait a little while until we got a few more people to get started. Get yourself a glass of water, pen and paper, and we'll get started in a minute. So we've got a few people coming on now. Welcome. So there's quite a few names of people I don't know yet, so welcome everybody. My name's Lee Rourke. I am a leadership coach and a trainer and team facilitator, and my business is Lead on Purpose. And welcome to this webinar, which is about taking your career to the next level. I'm not going to get started quite yet because we had something like 40, 45 people register, and I know that not everybody makes it, but I'm expecting probably about half of that to come along, and we've got about 12 at the moment. So welcome on in. If you are there, you can, off to your right-hand side is a little panel where you can chat to me during the session. There is a delay on these Hangouts or these webinars, so I will get your message about 30, 45 seconds later. So just, yeah, pen and paper we absolutely need. And just flick, you can chat to me, and also too I've got a lovely assistant today, Donna, who'll flick me messages if I get lost out of track or I need help. She's on the call as well. So just flick me a message about what you're hoping to get out of this session. So today's topic is taking your career or business to the next level. So it's quite a generic topic. It can apply to lots of people. Maybe you're in career transition, or maybe you've been retrenched, or maybe you want to step up as a leader in your workplace, or maybe you want to get a new job, or maybe you are a business owner and you're just ready to ramp it up to the next level. So there's lots of people with different needs on this one. So if everybody can just tell me what they're hoping to get out of today's webinar and pop that into the chat box, because I like these webinars to be more of a conversation, so I'm responding and serving you on what your needs are, and I tend to be a bit intuitive about that, so I'll go off on tangents and I'll think, who's this serving, and it'll be perfect for somebody. So pop in why you are here and what you want to get out of the webinar today, and then we'll get started in a minute. Let me check how many people we've got. Awesome, so we're about half full. So guys, paper, pen, water, and just take this time out for yourself. I just want to congratulate you guys for taking the time out for yourself in the first place, because I don't know about you guys, but as a busy business owner, or even just in your career, getting time out to do professional development, personal development is difficult. But I find most of my clients tend to be dedicated to personal development in one shape or form, and that's the reason they get results. So congratulations for showing up today. I'm going to just share my screen and do a little bit of a slideshow as we go along. Let's see. This should work. Here we go. And I will flick between me and the slideshow, so you'll get to see me, all the slides. So the first slide is just my outline. It's about a 5-step framework to the next level, and whatever that next level is for you, like I said, maybe you're here because you're looking to change careers or take your business to the next level or transition into a new space. I know there's one or two people here who are looking to be retrenched and are looking to go, where am I going? So that might be a complete new career redesign. So whether you know specifically where you're going or whether you don't, this framework is going to work for you. And I created this webinar because I started to notice that there were 5 steps I was taking my coaching clients, no matter where they were at or what industry they were in, through. And these 5 steps, I didn't necessarily take them through in order, but it tended to follow this order. And these steps were necessary for a person to have a sustainable change, to get to the next level in their business, whatever that meant for them. So it could be a money ceiling, it could be a career ceiling that you've reached, it could be just that you're feeling like you're frustrated or you're sabotaging where you're at, or even with that you're bored. One of the reasons I became a leadership coach was purely just because I had hit a point in my previous niche of my business where 2 things were happening. The first was I had a vision of my future that was really, really compelling, and I really wanted to get there, and I had no idea how to get there. And I knew that the path that I was on was actually taking me a little bit off on a tangent. So with that, I was like, okay, well, this isn't actually taking me where I wanted to go, so that's a problem. And the second level was I started to sabotage or even get bored. Like I started doing things and I started to stop following the systems that I knew were working for me. And I was like, why am I doing this? And it was really like my soul was calling me forth for more, to be a bit more spiritual or existential. So I'll be a bit spiritual and existential in this, but I'm going to give you a really practical framework, because to me it's about what can you practically do to make that shift from where you are right now to where you want to be. So thanks guys for putting up the reasons why you're here. If you've just arrived, keep on doing that. I've got some ideas on career transition, some real shifts from the type of work you're working on, and somebody who wants more clients, and getting over fear and going big, business owner who's ready to take their business to the next level. So we've got a few in careers who want to transition, and business owners as well. Great. I love that mix. I actually love working with both, because I find that the corporate world has a lot to teach entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs have a lot to teach the corporate world, and those 2 wisdoms are not mutually exclusive. They actually support each other. So let's get cracking into it. So why are you here? I've already asked that question. For some of you, it will be because you're unplugging from where you're at right now and looking for somewhere else to plug into, or you know where you want to plug into and you don't know where the plug is. So for me, it's like that's where a lot of my clients come to me. They come to me going, oh, I'm pulling out of this, but I'm in this strange nowhere land between where I used to be and where I want to be, or even when I know exactly who I want to be. So one of my clients at the moment has transitioned out of a top-level corporate career into being an entrepreneur space, a solo business person and a solopreneur. And he's bought a business, but it's a totally different mindset for him in terms of now he doesn't have a structure to his day. Now he doesn't know what he's doing in terms of mindset. How does he approach his day? So his whole identity is shifting, his whole systems are shifting, the way he runs himself and the mindset around that is shifting. So he has to unplug from one power source and plug into a new one, and that might be one of the reasons that you're here. The second reason you might be here is that you might be feeling like you're kind of invisible. You're kind of invisible in your workplace or invisible in your business market, and you don't know why, and you're sick of it, or you're frustrated with that, or maybe you're angry at all your workmates or at your clients for not signing up with you or promoting you. You've just become the invisible man that nobody notices, or the invisible woman that nobody notices. And there's a reason for that, and you can change that, and we'll talk about how to do that on this webinar. And then the third reason you might be here is that I took this photo at a recent art exhibition. You guys who live in Brisbane or the coast might have caught it. It was at Goma. It was amazing. But this, I couldn't step away from this installation, which was basically a heap of foxes that were running, and then they would hit this glass wall and they would fall down, and then they would come back and they would run and they would hit this glass wall. And this is what I see business owners and corporate executives do all the time. They hit an invisible glass wall that's actually within themselves, and it's that inner barrier that stops them from going to the next level. And, you know, to their credit, most of the people I work with have done what these foxes have done and kept running at the wall and kept hitting it and coming back down and still trying, but they feel like they're on this cycle and they just can't break through. So this just really hit home with me, this picture, about how we encounter that. And so this webinar is about breaking through that, or jumping over that level that's holding you back, that block, whatever that is. So they're the reasons you might be here today. I just want to give you my definition of leadership, because to me, whatever it is that you are dealing with, whether you're invisible or you have those inner blocks or you just don't know where to plug into, it requires you to step up in your level of leadership. And that doesn't mean that you become like the boss necessarily. It means that you become more responsible for your outcomes and that you step up. So leadership is the ability to engage, mobilize, and inspire others in a common purpose. And if you're in a business, this is what you need to be doing. You need to actually accept on some level the responsibility of the leader, and we're going to talk about identity in a minute. But I just wanted to pre-frame this whole webinar in terms of leadership, because to me this is the issue. If you want to grow your business, be a better leader. If you want to be a better parent, be a better leader. If you want to inspire others, be a better leader. If you want your team to be more autonomous so they can work on their own and you can just put your feet up, then be a better leader. And it's not a position where, in terms of, you need to be in a spot to do that. You can do that. You can lead up, you can lead across, and you can lead down. You can lead in any direction. So to me, leadership is, and that's the reason why I changed my whole branding to a leadership, away from a business coaching. I still business coach, and I still career coach, and I still do all of that within the framework of you becoming the leader that you were born to be. So that's my mission. My mission is to assist you to do that and to speak the truth of who you are. So just to give you my purpose, my branding's lead on purpose, and it's a lot about knowing who you are and where you are and what you're going, where you're going. So there's a 5-step framework I've come up with this, and the first one is reasonably obvious in a way. It's to know where you're going. And if you don't know the details of your going, at least know how that feels. So the 5-step framework, I'm just going to walk you really quickly through it, just so you've got an idea of where we're heading, is to set the vision, is to uncover and reconnect with your resources, is to establish a new identity or an upgraded identity, is to create the systems that will support you to shift into that space or to support you on an ongoing level in your career. And the 5th is a concept I've created around forthright leadership, and we'll get to that in a moment. So firstly, if you want to take it to the next career, you better kind of know where you're going. And as I said, if you have no idea you're in total career transition, if there's 1 or 2 of you on this line who are like that, then just know that the process I'm going to take you through, it doesn't matter, because we'll create a picture of what your lifestyle and what the feeling is, and that will be enough for the ideas to start to flow, particularly once you do step 2, which is really claim those resources that you have. So step 1 today is we're going to set your vision. Now, before we get to this point, I just want you to use that chat box, and just feel free to put any questions as you go along as we go. So I appreciate, that I'm moving pretty quickly, and I'd like to make sure that we cover it all, but I want to answer your questions as you go along, because I often find that I can't leave them to the end, because if I leave them to the end, I've forgotten them. And so either write them down or stick them in the chat box right now. So setting your vision, to me, the analogy for this is the GPS, because if I stick into my GPS where I'm going, even if I take a left turn and I go the wrong way, I love how the GPS just readjusts and creates a totally new route for me. And I don't even have to know how I'm going to get there. I don't even know that you need to go over the bridge and turn right, because the GPS knows. And this is the way our unconscious mind works. Our conscious mind, which is about 10% of going on, is really important. Don't get me wrong, conscious mind's absolutely essential. But it's your unconscious mind that's going to work for you or work against you in creating what you want to create, in getting to where you want to go. So you want to get it on side, and one of the best ways to get it on side is to create a vision that's compelling to it. So basically you're going to put into your GPS the destination of where you want to go in the language of the unconscious mind. And the language of the unconscious mind is visual, it's sensory, it's a feeling space, and it's a symbolic or metaphorical space. So I'm going to take you through a little shortened version of an exercise I do with all of my clients at some point around setting your vision. And we're going to do that in a moment. But just in terms of vision, what I want you to encourage yourself to see is not just if you're a career professional where you're going to be or the level you're going to be at, but to take in that broader scope or that broader vision of how you want your lifestyle to be and how you want to feel as you feel that. And this is such powerful stuff. I did this with a client of mine who'd recently been retrenched from a high-level corporate position, and she was really going way back. She was in her early 60s, and so she was nowhere ready to resign. A really dynamic, powerful, intelligent lady who had a lot to offer and would have probably gone nuts if she'd done nothing. So she was going to go right back to the drawing board about what she wanted to create, and we did. We went right back to the drawing board. We looked at lots of different options, businesses, getting another job. If she got another job, what kind of industry she'd want to be in. We looked at her same industry and looking within that as well. And so how we did this is we started with just this vision and we stuck it in her GPS, and she came up with a number of feelings she wanted to feel and a lifestyle she wanted to have and a symbol that represented all that. And it was like she'd stuck that into her GPS, and she did what I told her to do, and we reinforced that with her unconscious mind with a process. And she came through this process where suddenly it was like she started to notice all these opportunities that were in alignment with that. So it was like there's a part of our brain at the back of our brain called the reticular activating system, and it doesn't fire based on, it's basically scanning the environment for what we want. And if we focus, like let's say you're a career transition and you want to go to the next level of a career and you're focused on a specific job in a specific place, then it's just going to focus on all the opportunities that are going to assist you to get that job. But if you throw into it the feelings, the lifestyle you want to have, how you want to feel when you show up at work, the type of values you want to be using, the type of relationships you want to have when you get to work, then it starts to scan the environment for things that might look like that. So the process ended up being she explored about 3 different options and ended up landing a job in a similar field but at a much higher level. And this from a woman who had had totally lost confidence with the redundancy, had totally seen her job as her identity, and so she'd lost that. So she'd lost her self-esteem as a result, and who thought that no one would hire somebody in their early 60s. And we shifted those beliefs, stuck it into her radar, and she, just through chatting, she saw an opportunity that she mightn't have noticed. She ended up having a conversation, ended up getting an interview and getting the job. So setting this vision, I can't tell you how important it is and how easy it is for most people to dismiss it, because it's all happening in the unconscious. So we're going to do that now, and I want you to take a moment. So we're going to start with the visualization. So just take a moment to ground yourself. So I'm just going to come back to me now. So just unscreen share me. So we're just going to ground yourself by sticking your feet down into the earth. So what I mean by that is uncross your legs and put your feet flat on the floor. And the reason for that is that it just allows a more stable base for you to be able to visualize from there. So if you can shut your eyes, and the reason we do that is because the mind likes to be busy, and it shuts down about 30 to 50, for some people up to 80% of your thoughts just by shutting your eyes. So shut your eyes and just shut down those thoughts. Keep your feet flat on the ground and just feel that connection. Even if you're up in a high-level building right now, just feel that connection of the ground beneath you and imagine the earth beneath you. And if you like to, you can even, if you feel a little ungrounded and up in the air and maybe you've had a really busy morning, it's time to just let that go now and focus for this moment on what we're doing here. So just shut your eyes and imagine those tree roots go right from the bottom of your feet all the way down into the earth and really connect to the earth. And I know there's some of you that have done this before, but just allow yourself to do this again to reconnect with your vision and use this exercise as that. And then just open up the top of your head in terms of allow inspiration or ideas to come through. So whether you believe in God or the universe or just sunlight, just open up to the energy from above and allow that to pour down in like water pours into a funnel. Just see it funneling right down into yourself right now. And it's almost like the energy from the earth and the energy of the sky just meet within yourself. And it centers you. And as you begin to just relax even deeper into your chair now, and just to listen to my voice and letting go of what was that again? That's right, letting go now. I just want you to now imagine that in front of you is a trampoline. I like to see it as a purple metallic trampoline. And it's a trampoline of possibilities. And when you're ready, you can just get on the trampoline and have a play. Maybe do some flips. Because it's just your imagination after all, so you can just go anywhere you like, or anywhere you've never even been before now. And as you're jumping on that trampoline, we're just going to go forward in time in a moment, but not quite yet, just wait. Forward in time, at least a year into the future, to when your career is exactly how you want it to be. It doesn't really matter when it is actually. It could be 3 years or it could even be 6 months. Just allow that time scale to slide to where you need it to be. Your unconscious mind knows exactly where that is. And when you're ready, you can just jump forward. So you can just jump, and it's almost like you're clicking a little trigger in your hand, and we're jumping right into where your career or business is exactly as you want it to be. And as you jump into that space, just trust that you're exactly where you need to be right now. You might see things or hear things, or you might get nothing, and you might just feel it or sense it. Or maybe as I prompt you, you just know. Whichever way you know is just right now. And as you step into this space and you feel what you're feeling, I just want you to create and even notice, firstly, the lifestyle you have. So how many days a week are you working? How many hours? On your time off, how are you spending that time? Maybe there's a new flow of money coming in that new space, so notice how you're spending that money. Are you saving it, investing it, having fun and playing with it, clearing some debts with it? Just notice all that now. And notice the people that you're playing with on your time off. You mightn't see their faces, but just notice the type of people they are. Friends, family, partners. And now just notice how you feel when you wake up. Waking up feeling excited or energized or peaceful or whatever you want to feel. When you think about going to work, looking forward to the day. And again, how you feel when you step into whatever your workspace is, be that your office, at home, or in an office building, where you really know that you're making a difference and you're valued and you're sharing your gifts and talents. So really step into that. And I want you to notice you sharing those gifts and talents, stepping up in the way that you want to, who you're being, how you're behaving, how you're acting, how you're communicating. And now notice the ripple effects of that. The ripple effects of that in your workplace, on those you meet, on those who you smile to as you walk down the street, on the world, on the universe. The ripple effects on your family, on your friends, and on a global scale. And I just want you to imagine you take a moment in that work day where you just rest for a moment and you put your feet up and you just notice all the amazing things you've created over the last year, about how happy you are you've got through what you've got through. It was a challenge and you've made it and you're proud of yourself. And there's challenges yet ahead. They don't daunt you, it feels so doable right now. And just take a moment to really enjoy that, noticing all that you've created. And as you think of this picture of your lifestyle, of your work, of the ripple effects you're creating, of the new space that you're in, if there's a word or maybe 3 words that sum that up for you, allow your unconscious mind to present them to you now. And if your unconscious mind has a symbol, an image, or a colour, just allow it to bubble up to the surface of your consciousness. And just wait for it, like you're waiting for a bubble to slowly come up through the layers of the water to pop on the surface. And just remember those 3 words now, and that symbol. And when you're ready, you're going to hop back on the trampoline and jump back into now, jumping through the top of your head into present time space, coming back into your body. You can wriggle your toes and fingers. And just take a moment and write down on your pad those 3 words, if you got them, and an image, or a colour, or a shape, or a feeling. And what I encourage you to do as you write them down is to rip that out and stick it somewhere prominent. It's like you've just put the instructions into your GPS. So whether you know the details or not, it doesn't matter. The unconscious mind will start to scan the environment for those opportunities that's going to make you feel that way, and then the details will come later. It's also going to challenge you. If you stick something like that into your GPS, sometimes you're going to hit some challenges that you have to work through. Awesome. Love that, Amber. Amber's free. I know you won't mind me sharing that, Amber, but yeah, free was one of the words I wrote down. It changes each time I do it, and I don't do it that regularly, but it does change because what you desire changes. So yeah, it's normal for it to change. So you could stick this piece of paper. You could, in the past, I've downloaded a Google image, wrote it on a piece of paper, and stuck it in prominent places. So great place to stick it is, funnily enough, in the middle of your driving wheel, on your mirror, in your bathroom. They're probably my two picks. Near the door as you exit the door. So as you're going out the door, your unconscious mind's going, yeah, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for. So yeah, start to do that. So it's like setting that unconscious mind. And then from there, of course, we take that with my clients into a more structured approach. So we go from their purpose to their vision to their goals to their actions. And for those that are managing a team, we do it as a team as well. We identify their purpose, their vision, their goals, and their actions. And it's actually really important that the leader doesn't do that on their own, that the leader does that with the team, because then the team has ownership. I have a checklist you might see on the news feeds and things at the moment I'm doing called an autonomous checklist, a 30-day autonomous checklist. And it's basically talks about this process of really getting the team involved in creating the vision. Because when the team is involved in creating the vision, then they take ownership of it and they become more autonomous as a result. So we want to go through that process. But all of it, all that purpose, vision, goals, actions, we're all trying to create a feeling for ourselves or for someone else. And even when we're serving, like I work with a lot of heart-centered entrepreneurs who really want to serve, or heart-centered career people who really want to serve and make a difference. Well, we need to acknowledge that one of the reasons we want to make a difference is because we want to feel something ourselves. And that's okay to be that selfish. Yes, we do want to make a difference, and it feels great when you do that. And that is okay to be that selfish, to be seeking a feeling. So they all do that. And I have a structured plan with all my clients, either on a team level or a face-to-face level, to do this. You can also download from my website, you can download the 2014 planning workbook, and it takes you through these in a more structured way. If you want to identify that vision or goal in a more structured way, you can do that as well. And I'll send you the link to that one in a follow-up email with a replay. Just anything I mention, I'll attempt to send the link to, and if I don't, just flick me an email and say, you didn't send me the link to that, and I will get back to you with the link. So yeah, so it's really all about creating a feeling. We really need to identify that what we want as a feeling, because sometimes I've had clients who've created their goals and got there, and it hasn't been actually what they wanted. If they'd had a little more focus on the feeling or the lifestyle they wanted to create, then that would be a better outcome for them. So step 2 is to mine and connect to your resources. So that example I used of that lady who was in her 60s, who is now got an amazing job, she lost that confidence. So we began to mine and reconnect her to her resources. Like, she had incredible skill, incredible attributes, but what comes easy to us, we're not very good at identifying. So on your piece of paper right now, just write down the thing that comes easiest to me that is a valuable skill or talent is. And just write that down. You don't need to write the question. You can just write down what it is. But the thing that comes easy to me, that's a valuable skill and talent to others, is, let's take a moment to do that. And so if you want to, you can get off this webinar and write yourself a list. If you're really not feeling confident in what you have to offer to the world, write yourself a list of the 200 reasons that what you have to offer is valuable. Or write yourself a list like of all your skills and your talents and collate those. And if you're not sure of what they are, go and ask somebody. Go and ask somebody, because until you have all these resources, it's almost like till you gather them all up and you take ownership of them as yours, then you don't have the confidence, you don't have the self-belief to take that next step. And the truth is, the resources that you need are already within you. For those coaches on the line, know that, but this is just a reminder for them to connect to them and mine them. So with my clients, there's always an aspect in when we're working with each other of mining the resources in the room. So it could be a team and we are mining the resources in the room. We're looking at the expertise in the room, and I like to use Extended Disc or eDisc. I do an online 24-page profile with people that takes them through where their natural strengths are and where their challenges are. It's not a behavioural, it's not a personality profile. It's a behavioural profile. So it kind of shows you when you're doing this, you feel energized and it's easy for you. When you're doing this, it takes more energy. And it doesn't mean you don't have ability in those other areas. It means that, and then it matches with your job. So with your job, you might need to do more of this. Or so mine and connect your resources. It's about knowing yourself inside and out, knowing what you have to offer, knowing what you have to give, and connecting to those. So really being able to activate and access those feelings that lead to you feeling confident when you need them. So really owning your strengths and talents. And if you're, doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're going for a promotion, if you are selling to clients, if you are looking for a new career and you're going to be in an interview, then you need to be able to stand strong, not just in what you've learnt or what you've done, but what you have to offer. So it's, so we're not going to do the deep work around that at the moment, but I want you to write down maybe just an action step you're going to take to reconnect to some of those resources. It might be asking somebody, it could be getting your eDisc done, or I might also do a wealth dynamic profile for entrepreneurs, or it could be really asking somebody else what you're good at, or writing those 200 reasons that what you have is valuable to your clients or to your employer, future employer. So we'll move on to the next one now, which is about identity. So when somebody wants to come and create a change in their life, what they're really asking to do is to upgrade or transform their identity. And the biggest thing that stops them from creating the change as they go through their life is the identity that they're holding on to, which is the old them, and the ripple effects of that identity on other people. So how this looks is that sometimes I will coach somebody about who they are. So I remember coaching one of my entrepreneurs, and she's a really successful personal trainer, and she does business coaching and mentoring herself. And so when I was doing this, it was like we did a session, and right near the end of the session, we let go of an old identity. And then what happened was about a week later, she contacted me and said, I feel like I'm 17 again. And the reason she felt like she was 17 again and was doing the same patterns, destructive mental patterns she was doing back then, was that we hadn't, in that session, established the new identity that she was going to. And it was a great learning moment for me as a coach, was to make sure I always at least touch base with who that could be before we go into the next session. But it was perfect because she was able to contact me between, and in that time we re-established, well, what is the new identity look like? So if, for instance, if you are going to go from a management position to an executive position, or you're going from a lower level management to a middle management, or you're trying to take your business from earning whatever it is, and to another 25% more, then you're asking yourself to step up into a new identity. And there's a whole heap of mental garbage you have around that. There's a whole heap of stuff that will get in the way from you stepping up into that space. So you need to establish what that new identity looks like first, and then ask, what are you going to do to get there? So my challenge to you guys is that place that you visioned, is to look at the identity of that and ask, well, who am I going to need to be that? So what identity do you choose? Are you moving from the identity of the small business owner to the entrepreneur, or to the global business owner? Are you moving from the identity of the manager to the leader? Are you moving from the identity of somebody who earns 100 grand a year to somebody who earns 500 grand a year? What identity do you choose? I can't choose that for you. But it's a word, and you can play with this after, it's a word or it's a role. And I want you to know you're choosing it, because it's not actually who you are. It's just something that's going to serve you to get to the next level. And I'll talk a bit more about that. If that's confused you, then just hold that confusion. So what identity do you choose? So let's say you're moving from a manager to choosing that leader identity. So as a leader, to be that leader, what do you need to believe about yourself? To be that new identity, what do you need to believe about yourself right now? And I want you to write that answer down. To be that new leader, what do you need to believe about yourself? And you can use that question. So for instance, a friend of mine has recently given up smoking, and that's the question she used. She would, every day as she went and she had a craving for a cigarette, she would ask, what would a non-smoker do? What would a person who doesn't smoke do? What would a person who never smokes do? And that's what's helped her to give up smoking after a number of years, because she literally chose the identity of the non-smoker. And then, of course, the non-smoker does not smoke. Well, the non-smoker does not sit there obsessing about the next cigarette. The non-smoker, and for her, she realised that the smoking, like all of the destructive addictions, was an avoidance of an emotion. So the non-smoker sits with the emotion and deals with it. And that's what she got to next, as we talked about it. So as the new identity, whatever identity you choose, what would you do, say, be, and believe? And you can ask that question every day. So I ask myself, what would a leadership coach do sometimes when I'm feeling unresourceful? What would I say? What would I be? How would I stand? How would I talk? What would I wear? And it's not a process of fake it till you make it. It's a process of you get to choose. You get to choose. And it doesn't feel like it when you're in the disempowering space, but you actually get to choose. Now, there's so many reasons why people don't choose. And let's talk just briefly about that. I go through 4 major reasons, but the major one is, if I choose that new identity, the people around me aren't going to like it. It's like the friend who, there's two friends, and one friend's the overweight friend and one friend's the underweight friend, and the underweight friend, when her overweight friend loses the weight, doesn't like it and says something negative about what she's wearing or what she's doing. It's because I'm used to being the one that gets the attention. I'm used to you being in that role, and I want you to stay in that role. And I'll do something unconsciously to try and get you back into that role. And so this is one of the major reasons we don't shift our identity. So it takes some courage. It takes some courage to shift the relationships around us. Now, that doesn't mean you had to lose that friendship, because quite often is that people will do what I call have a Freddo Frog moment. They'll have a little tantrum about the fact that you've changed. So the Freddo Frog moment, the analogy with that is that I had a 2-year-old when I created this analogy, and if you take 2-year-olds to the supermarket every time, and let's say you gave them a Freddo Frog every time you went to the supermarket, and then one day you decided that no more Freddo Frogs for you guys, it's too unhealthy and it's costing me too much, whatever your reasoning is, and then the 2-year-old gets to the supermarket, you say no, has a mother of a tantrum. And as she's having this mother of a tantrum, you're thinking, should I just get her the Freddo Frog and then we'll be happy again? But no, you hold out, and then the second time you go to the supermarket, she has another mother of a tantrum. It's even worse this time, and you're thinking, I'm just going to buy the Freddo Frog, but you hold out. And then the third time, she has this tiny little tantrum, and then the fourth time, there's no tantrum at all. Well, the people in your life are the same as that 2-year-old. When you change the rules on them, they won't like it. And be that your employee or your partner or your best friend or whoever or your child, that they mightn't like that change initially. But then they'll get used to it and adopt to it, and the 2-year-old's not going anywhere, and probably your best employees aren't, and probably the ones that can't adapt to the change are probably better off leaving. So they've got nothing to lose here, I believe, in terms of upgrading your identity to where you want to be, and everything to gain. But you may expect some ripples, and there may not be. Maybe everybody's ready in your life for you to step up to that space and waiting for you to, with bated breath. So just choosing that identity, what would you say, do, be or believe to step up into that is really massive, because it starts all with identity. Now this comes with a massive disclaimer. I used to work in corporate health, and I used to help people get back to work after injuries, and one of the caseloads I had was guys who'd been injured in the army, and so they would come out of the army and they would have an injury, and then we'd help them, and Veterans Affairs actually gives lots of resources to help them to choose a new career and a new path. And what I would find in so many of these guys was that the loss of that identity of being a soldier or being a corporal or being whatever they were was totally devastating, because they'd taken on that job as their identity. And the army does lots to support people to do that, taking on jobs as identity. But yeah, so it was really strong in that. And so basically they decided that the vehicle they were using in their career, which was the army, was their identity. And when you make your vehicle your identity, there's a lot of pain can happen if you lose that vehicle. So, you might like to, have a backup plan. So every now and then I think, if I don't want to be a leadership coach, maybe I'll just go and open a secondhand bookstore so I can read books all day. It's kind of like this, you know what, I'd be okay if I didn't get to do this all day. And it frees me from it being so tragic when something bad happens and I don't get that client or whatever, because it's not my identity. But I play with this. It isn't actually my identity, but I'm playing as if it is. I'm playing with the beliefs of that identity. I'm playing with the mindset of that identity, with the clothes of that identity, with everything around that, because it works for me. So to change an identity, there's steps here, and I'm not actually going to go through this much today because we're running out of time, but basically you look at your identity beliefs, your global beliefs. So for some people, to change their identity from being an employee to a leader, or an employee to a manager, or a manager to a leader, they need to change their perspective around what work is and what their role is. So it might be my role is to make sure that everyone does their job, shifts to my role is to hold the vision and to create the culture where people work autonomously. It might be work is something you tolerate to work is something I love. So we shift global beliefs. We shift values beliefs. So the values, if you're shifting from a manager to a leader, for instance, your values will change. You know, your values might be around it might be around consistency and showing up. They might be important as a leader. They're very important as a leader. Congruency is important as a leader, but you might add new values into the picture. So you might value trust and respect and creating those type of environments. Rules, beliefs. So we have all these beliefs that we never audit about ourselves, and they're like, I must do this and I should do this. And so rules, beliefs might need to change. And then that leads to change in behaviours. And then I put down the bottom the others' perceptions of you, which is what I've touched on before. Sometimes to change an identity, you need to have conversations around that change of identity. So you might need to say to people, I know this is the way I used to be, but this is the way I'm choosing to be now, and I really need you to support me as this new me. So others' perceptions of you need to be shifted to fully change an identity, because if the environment around you doesn't support that change in identity, the change in identity won't hold, if that makes sense. So I just want you to let me know if you've got any questions there around identity. Just flick them into the chat, or does that make sense? I'd love your feedback on that one. So step 4 is systems that support you. If you want to transition into a career, sometimes that system that supports you is a resume. So sometimes really that practical thing. But it might be, for me, it always starts with self-care. What are your self-care systems? So what's the structure behind what you're creating that supports you? Starts with self-care, moves to productivity. What are your productivity systems that support you? It goes from productivity into what are your business or work systems that support you? What are the team systems, if you're accountable for a team, that support you and the team? What are the automation systems? So there is a lot of work that people are doing that could be automated by technology. What is the automation systems that support you? And then finally, what are the communication systems that support you to go to the next level? So it might be, for instance, just taking an example of, it's so communication 101, but so many leaders don't think to do this. It might be the feedback sandwich. It might be that the communication system that supports you is every time you give feedback to one of your employees, you sandwich it with really love the way you did that. Next time I'd like you to do this. And overall, it was an excellent job and well done. So you're doing the positive, the stretch and the challenge to the positive. So communication systems, automation systems, team systems, productivity systems and self-care systems, you need all of them. And if you don't have them in your life or in your business, then it's time to start to get them. So even I know there's a few solopreneurs on the call, you need to be thinking about making yourself redundant in your business. So by being in a position where if you got sick for 3 months, your business keeps running, and this happened to a client of mine recently. This happened where she got sick, chronic disease, couldn't be in a business for 12 months. Luckily, she had some systems set up. We had to hustle and get some other systems in place. And her business kept going. Other people did the work for her. So you need to be thinking about the systems that support you. So everything you do that's new. So this is the first time I've run a webinar on Webinar Jam. As I was doing it, I wrote my system for it. I wrote how to do it so that my admin person can set it up for me next time. So what are the systems that support you, that create you to go to the next level? Because if you're bogged down in having to put together everything, putting together the webinar for me, putting together the email, posting on my social media, you are never going to get to the next level because you have too much to do. There's not the space or time to create and plan and energize and move to that next level. So, and it's the same in your career. If you're bogged down with things that you could delegate, if you're not managing your productivity and your self-care, then you do not have the energy to have that confident, energized, positive presence that's going to make flag people on the radar for that promotion. So it starts with self-care, like I said, and goes to productivity. So that's where I start with all of my clients, is with the self. Until you can lead yourself, you can't lead anybody else. So we start with self-care first, and then we go to productivity plans. And I put in place, I'm actually not a believer of performance reviews in their traditional form. They came out of the Industrial Revolution, where people were extrinsically motivated, and because it was repetitive work, they had somebody look over the top of them to be motivated. If you have a team that's extrinsically motivated, it's time to change the culture to one that is intrinsically motivated. And how do you get intrinsically motivated is a personal performance plan. It's nothing to do with your KPIs. The KPIs are absolutely the symptom, not the cause of the productivity. So I work with business owners to set up team-wide personal productivity plans with their team, and certainly it changes, and this is where I love Ken Blanchard's model of situational leadership. It changes as you go through an organisation. Someone that's new needs more focus on the KPIs and needs more directive work, and then down the track you just need to coach somebody a little bit. So it shifts as a person moves through the organisation. But regardless of whether you're a solopreneur or you're in a career or you have a full team, you need your own personal productivity plan. What works for you? And I help you design those systems. So one of the systems that's going to be useful for you solopreneurs out there right off the bat is to divide all of your week into 2-hour blocks. And they're flexible hour blocks, but get really clear on when's your marketing time, when's your sales time, when do you see clients, when do you run webinars, or when do you do your marketing. And you can do the same as a leader in a career as well, rather than letting the crises dictate, is to block it up into 2-hour blocks so that you are in dominion of your time and you start to set boundaries with people around that. So that's a system that everyone on this call can just get going straight away with. There's systems that support you. To be intrinsically motivated too, you need systems that support you. So I also work with my clients on doing resets. So daily, I have a 10-minute process you can download, and I'll email you the link to that as well, so that gets you started daily. And it's a system that really supports you to be focused for the rest of the day. So I talked about that: self-care, productivity systems, team systems, automation systems, communication systems. So step 5 is my little baby, really. It's about leadership, because if you want to take yourself to the next level, the simple answer is become a leader. Have the mindset of a leader, like we talked about, an attitude of responsibility and an attitude of taking that responsibility regardless of your position. So forthright leadership is my term, and I'm going to be writing a book on this topic, and I'd love your help with it down the track. I'm going to run webinars, and you can join in on the webinars, and then I'm going to write a chapter a month, and it's my way of making sure the book gets read. But the reason I put this image up of the lion and the lamb is that there's this old Zen story, and basically I won't read you the whole story right now because time's short, but basically a herd of sheep came across this little lion, and the sheep raised the lion, and the sheep could see the animal was different, but the animal didn't know it was different. She'd only known sheep, so she didn't know she was a lion, and she became very useful in terms that she was good at spotting the dangerous animals, and she guarded the herd at night, and she felt kind of different, but she didn't really know she was different until one day she looked into this river or into this pond and saw this face of a lion, and the beast that she saw roared, and she stepped back from it in fear, and basically that lion realized that it was a lion, and it left the herd and went off into the kind of wilderness and found another herd of lions. So the message of this is that quite often we believe that limiting part of ourselves, those limiting mindsets that says we're a lamb, that we're part of the flock, when really, if you're on this call, I believe it's because there's a part of you that's calling forth the lion. And that lion is within you, and it's always been there. And part of that for me is about being clear and honest in your communication. I guess for me that presents sometimes in my life has presented a little bit as bluntness, and I've had this unusual relationship with myself where I kind of really liked the blunt part of myself, but then used to squash it at times, and it became something that I never really had any confidence in using until I learned to be a bit more attuned with maturity and a bit more behaviourally flexible in the way I deliver my messages. But now I bring that bluntness, and it underpins my strength as a coach. It underpins what I have to give to my clients, is to get to the heart of it with truth and heartfelt, compassionate, non-judgmental space, honesty. And so I believe it's that attribute of being forthright, of being able to speak the truth and have the courage in that truth, and the courage to be vulnerable, the courage to share a story with your clients or your team that shows your vulnerability but also shows how you've overcome it, or how you're overcoming it, and just allows you to be human. And that endears your clients or your employees to you more stronger than anything else. You need to have those stories, and I coach leaders on having the stories and how to be vulnerable, because that word makes all the control freak success D-types, if you know the DISC profile, freak out. So that vulnerability is really important to be able to establish that. So that courage it's going to get you noticed if you're looking to be if you're looking to progress your career. It's going to get you noticed. And even in an interview, it's not about hiding your weak points, should you say. It's about being honest with them and showing them how you're overcoming it. Being vulnerable, that's far more impressive than pretending you've got this mask of I'm perfect and everything is fine in my life and I'm absolutely perfect. And my business has grown more the more vulnerable I've been, in terms the more I've shared my personal challenges and how I'm overcoming them with my clients, because it makes me human. And then so with that courage comes a real presence. It's like being the lion, basically activating the predator within you. One of my speakers training mentors said something like, no one can take their eyes off the predator. So for me, lion isn't really my predator. It's probably more like an eagle. But every now and then I use that identity. I'm like, be the eagle, Lee. Walk as the eagle, talk as the eagle, stand strong like the eagle, focus like the eagle. And so bringing that presence in is really important. And I can coach my clients on how to stand, how to talk, how to walk. It can all be learned. And it is an act as if scenario. It's not a fake it, you make it. It's an act as if, and then you become it, and it becomes automatic. So the forthright leader is outcome focused. Is actually, if you look at the dictionary, the word forthright comes from focus towards an outcome. And to me, that is the key with leadership. I work with a lot of service industry leaders, so service industry managers and managing people in service industries, and they tend to be really kind people, and they need to be to manage those type of people, because we're all caring types. And as a caring type, then we don't tend to, sometimes we get bogged down in the politics and the emotions of the workplace rather than being focused on the outcome. And so I work with teams to create a culture where we're focused on outcomes, and that we collectively create the outcome. But if you're a solopreneur, be focused on the outcome. Be very clear about what your outcome is at all times, and this is the clarity of a leader, and what are the important actions that are required for you to reach that outcome. So where should you be focusing each day is based on what the most important outcome is. If I know there's a few coaches on this call, if your outcome is to get conversations, then so that you can sell coaching packages, then your action steps each day should include aspects of that. I've put above the line there, that's a model that we use in coaching that talks about a leader does not gossip, a leader does not blame, a leader does not bring a problem without bringing a solution. And so this is above the line behaviour, is that you're outcome focused, that you choose to play with the positive, and even when you choose to acknowledge the challenges, you do that in a problem solving way. So they're the attributes of a forthright leader. And the last one is conscious of ego and emotions, because if you're having those honest conversations with your employee or with your client and you're asking them to step up, then you need to be aware that if you bring your emotions, your projections into that conversation, it's going to be misinterpreted. So the forthright leader is a master of their ego and a master of their emotions, and that's a whole 3 chapters of a book, I think, on that one. So they're the attributes of a forthright leader. In terms of, I'd encourage you to just see which one of those pops off the page at you at the moment, because that's the one that it's time to just put some energy and focus into. So do you need to learn ways to manage your emotions so you don't bring that into the workplace? That's one of my clients at the moment that we're doing, is that she feels like her emotions spill out in her conversations. And so I'm assisting her to manage that so that she can be seen as the leader that she actually is. She already is, which is why she's being coached, which is why she's investing in herself, because sheep don't do that and lions do. So having that courage and the truth and vulnerability might be popping off you. So what conversation do you need to start having at an honest level? Is it with your partner? Do you need to go home and have that conversation? Presence, if it's presence, is it about really the way you're standing and talking and holding yourself and bringing your A game? Or is it about being more focused on the outcome? So whatever one is popping off at you, that's the one that you need to focus on, of course. And so if we look at, so that's the attributes. So the next steps, I'm going to finish up the webinar soon, but I'm going to take questions. So put questions in that chat box. I haven't had any feedback for a while. I need to know. I'm a people person. This is what I don't like about webinars, is that we're not just having a chat. So write down your action plan is your first step. So out of this webinar, what did you take? I want you to write a 3-step action plan maximum. 1, 2, 3, write it down now. Okay. So, and then you can also too, I offer a 15-minute clarity session for free. So if you know that you need more help with this, with any of those steps, then book a 15-minute strategy session. Just on the right-hand side, it should be popping up with a link. You can click the button and you can directly book a time in my calendar. This is automation, but systems that make my life a little easier. One of those systems, so just click that and doing that. And there's also the link on your screen as well. You can plug that in manually if you're not seeing that pop in, but you should be. And also too, the next step, I'd love your help to write my book. It's going to be on forthright leadership and on those attributes of a forthright leader. It probably won't be called Forthright Leadership because that's probably a boring title. But so if you've got ideas about my title, click, go for it. But I'm going to do a webinar and I'm going to do 1 chapter a month. So if you've registered for this webinar, you will get my ongoing emails and you can unsubscribe at any time. But as part of those emails, I write blogs that are useful. Check out my last one on loneliness as a leader for all of you solopreneurs. That one has probably had the most positive feedback sent to me by private messages than I've had from a long time from a blog. It really hit home for a lot of people. So, look at my blogs and I send that out via email. But book that 15-minute clarity session if you know that there's an area of this that's an ongoing challenge for you and you're ready to step up. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to connect to you and take the relationship from a name on a webinar into a conversation. It's just my joy to connect and offer that to you. So get started by clicking that button. So I'm going to go back to chat, and I'm going to have a look at, so there was a little bit here on ideas on career transition. So for you, the person who has written that, and they've written it privately, so I won't say their name, I know that this has been very conceptual. Just to give you some more practical ideas on career transition, is to start to go, if you know where you want to go, it's different from if you don't know where you want to go. If you don't know where you want to go, start with that unconscious process we've done, but then just go on a little bit of a research hunt in terms of speaking to people, thinking about jobs, getting on Seek, looking what you would like, and then look at the attributes or the skills or the resources that they're asking for, and then look at the gap between where you feel you are now and where you need to be, and then start to fill that gap. And that might just be through personal development or through adjusting the resume or through doing a short course or whatever that is. In terms of transitioning to a business, there's 1 or 2 people there that are transitioning to a business. My suggestion to you is to not put yourself into huge amounts of stress if finances are an issue, in terms of if you can reduce to a part-time role and then do your business part-time, or have a buffer zone of, say, 6 months or whatever it is worth of income and just make it happen. But things happen rarely as fast as people think they do in the interim, but then they give up too quickly. That's the irony, because I often see people give up just as they're about to break through. So it is a different world in terms of going from a corporate space into your own business, and it's a really steep learning curve. So just don't put yourself under pressure. Have a plan with that and do it that way. In terms of other ideas for career transition, if you know where you might want to go, is do some work shadowing. You know, there's people actually who are paying to go on holidays these days to go and work in different jobs, because, yeah, do some work shadowing if you can. Do some work experience. Ask if you can just hang out for a week or follow somebody for a week. It seems like a kind of strange thing to do, but it's a good way to know if you might be interested in what you think you're going to be interested in for real, because sometimes the realities of work are different from where they are. But yeah, I think I'm just suspecting for the person that's putting ideas on career transition, it's really about you owning your skills and talents on a deeper level, and being able to articulate those. And so if you need some help with articulating that, words are my strong point. So just give them to me and I'll help. So yeah, so just doing that. So I think I haven't had any questions yet. So I'm just waiting for the questions to come through. And it takes 45 seconds with this thing, so I know that it could just be slow. And I'm going to just go back to me. So if you have any questions, fire them in. It's your space, your time. And otherwise, for those who have to head off, I just want to thank you for coming today. I will hang out on this chat until I get nothing more in the chat box. But yeah, thank you for coming and for being here and for taking the time out for yourself. So I'd love your help with writing my book. If you want to come to webinars and give me feedback on the information I deliver, then I'll have that webinar transcribed and I'll create a chapter out of it, and that's the way I'm going to write my book, to keep myself accountable. So you'll be my accountability buddies, which is another great system. If you want to step up, get yourself accountability buddy, somebody who, a mastermind, a coach, somebody who just holds you accountable to you being you and that new identity and that new space. Thanks, Jenny, who loved the webinar. It's my pleasure. Lots of positive feedback, but no questions. Come on, guys, find me a question. Use me. Okay. You're welcome, Dave. You're welcome, Olga. Thank you. So I'm going to hang tight for just another minute. You can also connect to me via Facebook if you want to ask questions later, if you think about things later, send me a personal message or pop it on the event. Okay, so somebody has sent, I still have trouble with starting off. So for you, Olga, and I think Nikki, somebody else has put there, no. So with starting, it's quite simple. Start with one thing. So you've got a list that's totally overwhelming about what you want to do in your head. I don't actually use a long to-do list. I use a 3-part to-do list. 3 most important things that get done in my day, and then when I've done that, I just move on to the next 3. But I'm always only working on one thing at a time, and you just start with the one thing. And part of that too is having those compelling reasons from an unconscious point of view. So writing compelling reasons, 200 reasons why you should, is an exercise my coach gave me, and which I have found probably the most useful exercise I could do in terms of my motivation and staying accountable for myself. And accountability buddies as well. Absolutely, Nikki. I'd love you to use you as a case study. That would be awesome. Perfect. Thank you. We'll talk about that later. And thanks, Donna, for being here and supporting. And I think, yeah. So some of that, with the starting thing, some of that's about the identity as well. It's about the fear of stepping into the new space. So it's really a process of facing that fear and activating the frustration enough, using that to propel you forward. So when you feel that frustration of not being able to start or not being where you don't want to be, and just really feeling that, allowing yourself to feel that, and then focusing that forward on your step. Use that energy proactively rather than destructively, if that makes sense. There's some processes I teach around that, but it's a little in depth for 1 minute. You're welcome, Sandra. Awesome. I think we have finished with the comments. No questions? So another thing that came up just intuitively then for anyone who's left on is don't be afraid to ask for help. Sometimes we feel like we should know something, so we don't ask for help with it. So I have a coach. He got an emergency message from me yesterday asking for his perspective. And I just find that if it's going to get me there faster, then I'd much rather ask for help. And that's a great mindset shift you might want to make. You can't quite see the wood for the trees when it's your own stuff. Absolutely, I'm making the recording available to view online. So I think the same link you got will work as the replay. I'm new to Webinar Jam, but I will be re-emailing it to all the attendees, all the people who registered. So you'll get a replay. I'm just going to keep the replay up for ages. So it'll show up as a YouTube video. You'll be able to watch it in YouTube. The wonders of Google Hangouts. I'm loving this new platform, actually. I'm a bit of a tech geek. Love it. Automation excites me. If you can have the boring jobs done and delegated, so it just frees you up to go to the next level. I think that's one thing I didn't talk a lot about was delegation. But that's a huge part of it. It's if you can free up all the $5 an hour jobs and just do the $500 an hour jobs, then you can go to the next level. So I'm gonna, I think we've just got about, love that you guys are hanging out with me here. It's awesome. I think we've just got about, I'm just gonna wait one more minute in case any more questions come through because I know there's a delay, and then we'll finish up. It's been fun. Okay guys, I haven't had any comments for a while, so I'm going to stop the broadcast. If I miss you, please Facebook message me, connect via those strategy sessions. They're no obligation, there's no pressure to sign up for anything. It is literally a strategy session to help you get clarity on those next steps. And we'll go forth from there, and I'd love to have a conversation with you and connect. So until next time, have a great day.